Hello everyone, Brad Johnson here. And before we get into today's Adronis Advancement Classroom, I just wanted to remind everybody that if you're really enjoying a lot of the education that's going to come forward in today's class, that you should look into realitywhisperer.com. Nothing is really more rewarding and transformational and life-changing as having a personal interaction with Adronis. I've spoken to thousands of people throughout this past 7 years who have had these incredible adventures and experiences with Adronis, and they have become such amazing individuals with a lot of the information that Adronis has shared regarding themselves and their own authentic path. So this is what I highly recommend to everybody who has yet to experience an Adronis private session. You can go to realitywhisperer.com and you can book a private session today. Also know that we have digital courses that are available. We also have a lot of free meditations and of course all kinds of free videos that are available on this channel. So again, I encourage you to take a look at realitywhisperer.com and check it out, and I would really be happy to have a personal, private one-on-one session with you anytime down the road. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy today's class. Much love to you, take care, namaste, and may it be well with you. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the next class. I guess it's classroom number 4 of the Adronis Advancement Classroom. I'm just behind my black screen here, which I use for my YouTube videos, and I thought I'd give a little bit more of a snazzy feel. The area where I usually film the broadcast before now has a 3D printer in front of it, so I'm just trying out a new little space here, and looks okay. So thank you everybody for being here today. I'm just looking at my screen here, that's why my face is over this way. Thank you everybody for being here today. We do have up to 10 people here on the video chat, and I refer to these guys on the video chat as the front row seats, or the front rows. As Adronis will refer to you as the front row, then that will just give you the indication that you can interact with him once we get into today's event. We also have a special guest on the video chat. Her name is Alexandra, and she will be the moderator for today's class. Alexandra, did you want to mute yourself and say hi?
Hello.
Perfect. All right, so Alexandra will be moderating questions that come through. So everybody who's tuning into this through YouTube or through Google+, there's an app on the video that says Q&A. So you just click on that Q&A app, and you can go ahead and you can ask a question to Adronis as we'll be getting into the second segment of the Q&A. Any questions that you have, semi-personal or general in nature, feel free to share. Remember that personal and private questions are really meant for the sessions. So again, you can go to realitywhisperer.com for that. So before we get started today, there's just a couple of announcements. The first announcement is, of course, I'm wearing the Inbound t-shirt. And things are really going very, very well for this TV series that I'm starting to work on, co-producing with friends of mine from Pittsburgh that run the production company known as Tragic Hero Productions. And things are really going very, very well, and we're really looking to make this kind of imprint, this mark, in kind of a grassroots, independent level relating to this TV show. It's based on a lot of the information that Adronis has shared, a lot of the information that I have come across since the past 7 years, and it's really just kind of amalgamating into this kind of non-fiction fiction type show. And we're doing quite well, but we're always needing more support for the Inbound to really get the series going. So you can go to the website www.gofundme.com/theinboundseries. If that's too big, you can just go to theinboundtv.com, and you'll see the GoFundMe page, the GoFundMe widget page there. Click on that, and you can leave a nice contribution for us. So that's $10, $20, etc. There's also perks that are going to be available as well too, from having a minor role on set, from being an associate producer, and being able to see an advanced screening of the first episode as well too. So there's a lot of exciting things, and we're really, really passionate and really excited to getting this TV series going. It's a really, really exciting, passionate project of mine and of the people that are going to be co-creating it with me. And of course, you guys can co-create it with me as well too. That's the whole point. So again, you can go to the inboundtv.com and check it out. Secondly, I'm going to be going to Irvine, California on December 13th for the next Adronis event. We're going to be doing a live Adronis event at the Temple of Light. It's in Irvine, California. So for all of you Californians that are out there, please feel free to come in and join us. And again, it's happening at the Temple of Light on December 13th, starting at 2 p.m. Pacific. So you can go to realitywhisperer.com, and on the home page there, you'll see the link to the Adronis live event, and it's called, what is it called? Getting a brain fart here. It's called Adronis, I think it's Becoming the Extraordinary or something like that. I had the title in my head just a minute ago. But Unleash the Extraordinary, that's what it was. Adronis Unleash the Extraordinary.
Yes.
So yes, that's right. Thank you. I'm glad I have backup crew here. That's good. But Adronis Unleash the Extraordinary and the live event, so feel free to check that out on realitywhisperer.com. So what we're going to do right now is just kind of give a brief introduction to everybody that's in the front row. If you guys just want to introduce yourself, maybe say your name and anything else you want to share as well too. So if anybody would just like to unmute their mic and just give a brief introduction to themselves.
Hey Brad, it's Cheyenne here from California.
Hello Cheyenne, welcome.
Hi, this is Florence from Denmark.
Hello Florence, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. Oh, and it's a little hard to hear you. You're a little faint with your microphone.
Is it better now?
No, not really. You might have to come a bit closer. I might need to turn up the volume.
And what about now?
That's good. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I said my name is Juana. I live in Germany. I come from Eastern Europe. Do you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you very much, Juana. You come from Eastern Europe, Germany. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very good.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Hi, Brad. I'm Wendy. I'm from north of Chicago.
Hi, Wendy from Chicago. Welcome.
Hello,
I'm Samantha. Oh.
Go ahead, Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
Oh, hi, I'm California.
California, great. We've got a couple Californians here, so excellent.
Hello, Brad. This is Guru Dan, just saying hi.
Hi, Guru Dan. Welcome.
And hi all, this is Thomas from Lithuania.
Thomas from Lithuania. Wow, we got people from all over the world today. This is great.
Quite far away, yeah.
Welcome. Thank you so much. And of course, that's not even counting the people that are going to be tuning into this live. Unfortunately, it kind of sucks that Google Plus Hangouts can only have up to 10 people on the video chat. I would love to have 100 people on these video chats and just being able to talk to everybody. But very good. Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. So we're going to go ahead and get into the class today. Let me just make one little correction on my computer here before I get started. There we go. Okay. So again, in our classroom today, what we're going to be talking about is welcome to the 5D Earth. What will you do now? And of course, looking into aligning with the ego. So these are the two main topics that Adronis is going to be talking about when I bring him through here shortly. Again, for people who want to ask questions, again, just feel free to check out the Q&A app that is on the video feed if you're on Google+. And I think if you're on YouTube, I think there's a little link there that will let you go to the event page, and you can just click on the Q&A app and just pose your question. Again, Alexandra will be taking questions in the second half of our event today. And that's basically it. So I will go ahead and get started and bring Adronis through. It'll just take a moment or two, and then again, he will be bringing interaction to everybody that's in the front row today as well too. So Adronis will be asking questions to everybody in the front row, and this is kind of like the neat little live participation that we have here for the Adronis Advancement Classroom. So again, thank you everybody for being here today, and I will go ahead and bring Adronis through after I take a glass of water. Okay. All right, guys, here we go. we are here at this time, and we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this particular broadcast being brought forward through your internet collective consciousness. What we would like all of you to do at this time is simply allow yourselves to get relaxed, get comfortable, and tune in to the vibrations of Sirius so that you may synchronize, harmonize, and align to all of the information that we have to share. Also understand that all of the information that we shall provide today is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very heart, being, and soul. And so the topics of discussion today will represent the idea of living in the 5D Earth. What will you do now? As well as allying with the ego self. So we would like to pose the very first question to the people in the front row. And that question for all of you is, what do you believe the 5D Earth is? So if you would like to unmute your microphones now, please, and for any of you who would like to share a perspective in regards to what you believe the 5D Earth is, please go ahead.
Adronis, I think it's an Earth that has no violence and everyone is more connected to each other with love.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, hi.
I believe
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I believe it is peace, love, and unity.
Peace, love, and unity. Yes, thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, I believe that it's a higher dimensional version of a higher vibrational version where we are. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. My apologies.
That's all right. It is a higher dimensional version. Yes, indeed. Anybody else?
This is Thomas. I think reality is gonna be more plastic, more manifestation is gonna be more quick, and so
all right.
to speak.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
I believe there's more awareness, being more conscious of your thought process and your manifestations and what you want, what you need.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else?
I thought Adronis was the idea of unity, understanding that we are all connected to all one thing.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody. Please feel free to unmute your microphones now, or to mute your microphones, rather. Congratulations, all of you are correct because you're living in the 5D Earth right now. That's basically the best way of putting this. So everything that you have said, everything that you have shared relating to the idea of unity consciousness, getting along, moving to a point to where you are transcending past the idea of violence, impoverishment, etc., is exactly where you're headed. Now, as we have stated before, that you are moving into the idea of a threshold crossing here. The idea that the third density plane and the fourth density plane are now becoming a hybridization, that they are connecting together. But in regards to the idea of the new Earth that you understand, you're already there. You have already made the journey. You have already crisscrossed. So if you're listening to this, if you're viewing this right now, then this is already giving you the indication that you're already in the Earth that you speak of. Well, Adronis, there still is certain forms of violence that's happening upon the planet. There still is certain levels of impoverishment that's happening upon the planet. There's a lot of these other particular types of conflicts that are happening upon the planet right now. How could this possibly be the 5D Earth? Because the idea of the 5D Earth is that it is, as Thomas put it, plasticized. It is starting to mold. It is starting to shape. It is starting to, in that sense, bring itself into the appropriate type of mold that you are all deciding the new Earth decides itself to be through the collective conscious intent. And so through the idea of the violence, the impoverishment, the conflict, etc., all of that is again still happening because there are adjustments taking place. Many of you are still understanding where the roots of these violence stem from. The roots of this impoverishment stem from. The idea of the financial situations of conflict stem from. All of these are attempting to discover their root cause. And again, just like yourself, where you know that through your own personal forms of transformations that are taking place, in order for you to make those transformations, you needed to go into yourself, you needed to accept that something was not in alignment, and you were able to therefore conscientiously make the change. And in that sense, forgive every particular aspect of that alignment that didn't serve, allowing that energy to be released, bringing in a new vibration of feeling that represents your reality. Now, this is exactly what you're doing on a collective level. So again, the whole idea is that it's not about snapping your fingers and feeling that you're in a paradise, utopian-based planet. It's not going to work that way. It comes through the idea of transition. What you are basically experiencing here is no more different than the idea of a type of pregnancy. That there are, in that sense, intense labor pains, that there is the transitional period of labor. But eventually the idea of a new birthing becomes anew in that way. It takes place. So the whole idea is that there will always be these states of continuous rebirthing, going into labor again, having those particular types of traumas, those pains, going into transitional labor, and being able to deliver a new gift to the world. So that is what you are still going through. So there still needs to be a lot of transformation, as this is your journey on planet Earth. This happens because you're such unique people. You are such unique species of a civilization that is so rich in contrast, that you have every particular facet of contrast on the planet that you can possibly imagine. That's why it has been, shall we say, such a challenge for many of you, because you are very, very broad. You are able to surf the idea of the contrast spectrum that represents the 5D Earth, or the fourth density Earth. You're moving into these particular types of vibrations because this is what you have chosen to experience, all of you, through the idea of what you would know as higher alignment that is now condensing itself into physical alignment, and that you are all moving forward and saying that, well, we have a lot of these wars happening in the Middle East, happening in the eastern area of our planet, and now we're attempting to move past that by more people opening their hearts, by more people willing that when one person is harmed, we are all truly feeling the harm. And so we are doing everything we can to allow that energy to prosper, because we're putting ourselves in those shoes. We're allowing ourselves to see exactly what is it that is triggering this idea of war. What is the war that is going on inside myself, and making my Earth the ideal Earth to live in. And as that starts to happen, other people will see your example. And they will start to realize, oh, well, I need to create the ideal Earth I want to live in. We understand of the situation that has taken place within the area that you know as Paris in your couple of days past. Now, as we have stated in the past, that there will be certain forms of events taking place such as this. There will be also another particular false flag event taking place within your year of 2016 that could be, in that sense, even more intense than what Paris was. Now, again, understand this is all part of a shaking of reality to helping all of you move into the aspects of becoming one, becoming unified with each other. That's really the point of what's happening here, because as we just stated, when one is harmed, all are harmed. And so it's being able to allow yourself to look at these particular types of situations, from what happened with Paris, from what has happened in regards to other particular types of events such as this, and understanding that when these particular tragedies come together, everybody unites. Everybody comes together as a collective. Everybody unifies. And they start to work together in assisting each other, because now they see that when trauma, when tragedy, when this particular type of conflict comes in, the entire world feels it. You do not even have to be hooked up to your media, as it were, to feel it. You do not have to have a television set to feel it. You simply feel it in the air. You feel it through each other. You know that when situations like this happen, the whole world experiences this ripple effect. And that's exactly why these are permitted to happen. Believe us when we say there are many things that have been, in that sense, much more disastrous than what you would consider to be Paris in regards to the events that happened there, that have been averted through the idea of nuclear warfare, through the idea of, in that sense, very intense violence that is attempting to trigger a third world war. But as we've stated in the past, there will be no third world war on your planet. The idea of a quote-unquote third world war comes more to the idea of the war within yourself, as the war of vibration, of the war of particular type of liberation that you're all feeling more psychologically. And that is primarily what the new version of the idea of this conflicting of war is representing. It is not the idea that is being fought with guns and cannons. It is more so in the idea that is being fought with the mind. And so that is primarily the manifestation that the idea of a quote-unquote third world war has taken. So it will not be a physical battle war. It will be a psychological war. And that is what many of you are going through right now, because the idea is that it is for you to make peace with this particular type of war by coming together. Everybody who may feel that they are the no-gooders, that they do no good, etc., that they are the opposers, that they are the oligarchs, etc., are doing a great service, because they're showing you everything that you no longer wish to have within your reality. And this is what the 5D Earth represents. So we ask you, what do you want to do now? And you have all shared the idea that, well, this is the Earth that I want to see. This is the unification factor I want to see. So it's all about making that happen. So whenever you discover conflict collectively within your world, that you are now giving yourself the permission to say, how does that conflict root back to myself? What is it about me that allows that trigger of conflict that's happening on the other side of the world starting to take effect with me? What is happening within myself? What does it mean to myself? Because in order for you to be quote-unquote bothered and conflicted by this, that particular trigger needs to have some type of meaning to create such an effect. So this is basically the primary aspect of understanding that whatever it is you're going through on the planet, you're all involved in a certain way because it has meant something to you. As we've talked about in the previous classroom, that when you are basically going through the aspect of living in a reality like this, living in a physical reality, what is it that creates meaning? Can any of you answer that? What is it that creates meaning through yourselves?
Is it our emotions?
All right, there's the idea of the emotions. Anybody else?
Love.
Love, all right. Anybody else?
Our beliefs.
Beliefs, all right. Anybody else? All right, well, we thank you very much for your responses. Please feel free to mute your microphones. What is it that creates meaning through yourselves? The ego is what creates meaning through yourselves. It is the ego itself that is the database that contains everything as it represents meaning. So as we talked about in the previous classroom, it is the idea that you are able to interpret everything with reality that gives it substance based upon the state of meaning. But in order for meaning itself to fundamentally be created, for you to, in that sense, branch meaning into this reality, requires the ego. It is okay to have an ego. We will say that again. It is okay for you to have an ego. You need it. It's part of your assignment. It's part of your mission. It's part of your purpose here in that way of being on planet Earth as a human being in this physical reality. We ourselves even have a type of ego as well, because we are still understanding certain levels of meaning. It is not in that sense to the degree as intense about what you're going through in physical reality, but we ourselves still have somewhat of a degree of an ego. So the whole idea here is that the ego is your database. It is the memory banks in that way. It is what gives about the idea of meaning through yourselves. So this is leading us into the second topic, which represents the idea of allying with the ego. So as we've talked about being into the 5D Earth, what will you do now? That is a question that you need to ask yourselves. Because again, we've already shared about what's going on with your planet right now, about what's happening with your planet. The 5D Earth is all giving you an idea, an aspect of realizing what is it that you wish to create, because you are very much, in that sense, much more lucid now than you've ever been. You now have a lot more capability of expressing yourself more freely now than you've ever been. You are now able to bond and form unity with so many others, more now than you've ever been. That's really what the 5D Earth represents. It is everything that you have all shared, what you wish it to be. So if we're looking into the idea now of ego alliance, when the ego feels like it's quote-unquote getting out of control, it's not the ego itself that's doing that. It's the idea that you put so much reliance into the idea of the main frame of meaning that represents the ego that it becomes inflated. It is the energy that you're pouring into it. As we have stated before, the ego is a grounding device. It is basically helping you to stay centered in reality because it is the meaning epicenter. It is what allows meaning itself to be processed, to be expressed through reality. That's its job. However, it is not meant to be your guide. It is not here to predict events about how they are going to go, because the ego is incapable of doing that. The ego is not the idea of a foretelling form of device. It is not able to understand exactly what is transpiring here and now. It is a database. It is a data bank. And so understanding that is only being able to process what it has assimilated. And so that is giving you the idea about how the ego works. When you put so much faith in the idea of allowing the ego to run your life in a very deep control factor, this is how it becomes overinflated, because you're pumping so much reliance. The ego therefore becomes your God. And you start pumping all of this energy into the ego until it becomes this vast, expansive balloon. And so basically, in order for you to realign those ways, is being able to become a lot more liquefied with the idea of your beliefs. So what we mean by that is not feeling that your beliefs that have allowed the ego to become so overinflated to happen, to being able to allow them to be liquid now, meaning that they can be bypassed, they can be bent, they can be released, so that the ego itself can breathe. The ego is truly meant to be your ally. It is never meant to be your enemy. It is never meant to say, oh, I'm just going through my heart, and my heart is all there is, and there is no ego, and it's all through my heart. No. Your heart is a very, very important tool. But your ego in that sense and your heart are meant to get along. That's the whole idea. So you're looking at the idea of logic, and you're looking at the idea of feeling. They're meant to come together. It is true that much in regards to the natural process of reality, of what reality is altogether, has been generated through the idea of feeling manifestation. But because you are existing within a physical reality, because you are existing where there is linearity, where there is solidity, this is where the ego comes to place, because everything that you are experiencing in a linear-based fashion, like what this reality is sharing with you, is all part of the meaning that the ego is designed to perform. And so it is giving you the idea that you are bringing meaning to a situation. But the whole idea really is that the ego was meant to be fluid, was meant to be like a river, and that you were like a rock placed in the center of this river, and the water is rushing through you. And so all the ego is primarily meant to do is process experience and give rich meaning to the experience that you have encountered. But because of so much indoctrination and dogma and conditionality upon your planet, this is what has created the ego to get so massive, to become so inflated. And so the whole idea here is being able to work together with your ego ally is that you are capable of making your ego your best friend, of making it a positive benefactor for yourself. No longer in a feeling where it needs to be overcritical, where it needs to be overjudging. The only reason it does that is because you haven't filled the ego in. If you're moving into different paths that you feel are appropriate for yourself, but you're not allowing the consensus of yourself to understand where you're going, well, the ego is going to be confused because it has been configured to an aspect of life programming where it says, hey, what's going on? You were once within this circle relating to all of this logical criteria, and now you've jumped out of this circle and you're going into a brand new circle that I don't understand. I just want to be filled in. What's happening here? Oh, no, 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 you don't need to be filled in. They go away, run away, leave. I don't want to deal with you. Well, how would you feel if somebody said that to you? It would cause certain forms of conflict within yourself, no doubt. So it is all about being able to look into the idea of the ego as your ally. Talk to it as your best friend. See another image of yourself that represents Ego Joe, Ego Jenny, Ego Jennifer, whoever it may be, and having a conversation with yourself. This is what we refer to as self-consensus. So what we have shared with others in the past is when they decide that they are attempting to make choices that will allow themselves to benefit their life and saying, well, I'm feeling I want to go in this direction with my career. I'm feeling I want to get involved in this romantic relationship with this partner, but another part of me says that that's not the time to do it, that it's not appropriate for this to happen. What should I listen to? And what we tell them is saying, don't do anything until you have full self-consensus. So what we mean by that is that your physical self is in agreement. Your heart self is in agreement. And now you're able to move into that aspect. So if the ego says, yes, 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 go for it, it's stability, it's good finances, etc., the heart is saying, no, this is not your path. Then you will want to look into that. You will want to check into yourself with that before making a decision. So this is what we highly recommend to all of you, is being able to create the degree of self-consensus. Can anyone in the front row give us an example of when the particular form of ego has attempted to be in charge? So any particular type of situation that you would like to share where you felt your ego has been in charge. Anyone?
I didn't want to leave a job I didn't like.
All right, did not want to leave a job you did not like. Thank you. Anybody else?
Maybe,
Go ahead.
maybe in an argument with my boyfriend.
All right, argument with a boyfriend. Yes. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've had it with getting into arguments, letting the ego take over, or actually feeling that I want to leave my job, and my ego is telling me that I don't have the belief systems to go ahead and do that. Even though my heart, I feel like my heart is saying too.
Yes. Very good. Anybody else?
Actually, I think that any situation which involves a fear factor, decisions based on fear have to do with ego system.
Correct. Yes, you are correct. Thank you very much, everybody. Please feel free to once again mute your microphones. All right, thank you very much. So yes, these are again all prime examples of where it feels that the ego is attempting to tell you, oh, don't go that particular direction because there is not the amount of sufficient belief systems. The idea is that there is not enough tangible data for me to assimilate for you to get an understanding of going into this particular direction. That's how the ego thinks. The ego is a data collector. Again, it is a meaningful epicenter. It is attempting to bring meaning to all of these things based upon the criteria of how it understands you. Because here's the thing. The ego knows you really, 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 really well. It knows everything about you. And it feels that when you make the jump and go into another circle of theme, it's going, are you kidding me? Really? No. There's no belief systems in place. It's like basically asking to put a house in the middle of the water. It's going to sink. That's basically how the ego sees it, because there is no foundation. There is no landmark. There is no particular type of perimeter fencing. There is no land that allows the foundation to be created. And that's how the ego thinks. So the whole idea is that this is not to say that you are not following your heart, following your dreams. But the whole idea really is that you want to explain as best you can to the ego that when you have a new innovation, this is what you're going to sit down and talk about with yourself, because you want to have that consensus. When you have full consensus, you are now walking a straight path, a path of illumination, that your physical self feels very content with it, that your heart is already very content with it, and you're moving down that path. And this is where manifestation becomes easy. Here's a little secret for all of you. Manifestation becomes the quickest when there is no breach of conflict in regards to the decision to making that happen. That is how manifestations become instant, or nearly instant, because your physical self is aligned. Your mental body, your emotional body, your heart body is all aligned in walking that path. And there is no conflict. It is pure consensus. And when pure consensus happens, manifestation in great acceleration occurs. And that is how you are able to get these particular types of events that just fly into your life. They simply, poof, magnetically, poof, appear directly into your reality and saying, oh my goodness, I just asked for this about an hour ago, and now here it is. Because There is no conflict within the fullness of yourself. The consensus is saying, yes, bring that in, come on in. That's the whole idea. Think of it in the analogy of this, that there is a highway, and that when you are basically in a state of full consensus, there's no other cars on the road, and you can go as fast as you want. There's actually no speed limit either. However, when you feel that you are attempting to make a decision where the ego may say, for example, well, go for this job, it's very, very stable, you're going to make a lot of money. The heart is telling you, you will not be happy in this job. This job is not going to work out for you. You will feel conflicted. You are not in the alignment for what this job represents to you. And the ego will say, oh, that's hogwash. Come on, good money, financial pay, stability. That's what we really want. Then basically what happens is we get congestion on the highway. So basically now the highway is getting filled with all these cars honking at each other with the idea of a speed limit being posted. Simply because you are manifesting yourself in different arrangements of fragments relating to other avenues that are saying, well, what if I do this? Maybe that'll make the heart happy. Well, what if I do that? Maybe that'll make my ego happy. Well, what about this? What about that? What about the other thing? So you're creating all of these splittings, these fragments pertaining to what you feel is a decision to make. Now you have all of these branches of choices, and now you're ultimately confused. And this represents the idea of a traffic jam, a congestion. And you're basically just crawling around. In fact, you look out the window and you see that a snail is moving faster than you are. So that's giving you the idea right there about the idea of congestion. Whenever you feel ultimately confused in that way, in a way, that is a good thing because it's helping you to evaluate something and you are staying very lucid. You have not subscribed to one particular idea. But the ultimate state in confusion really represents the idea that you are fragmenting yourself in so many different directions at the same time. And that being able to hastily make a decision on one of those particular avenues without reaching a consensus will bring back rebound. What we mean by that is that as you feel conflicted based upon that particular type of decision, the conflict that exists within that decision, with these many branches as example, will start to rebound back to you, to giving you the idea that you hastily made a decision and you did not truly think it through, and now this leads to disappointment. Now as it leads to disappointment, the rebound of all these other particular types of confusions, of all these other particular types of conflicts, converge entirely onto you. And now you're feeling lost. Now you're feeling discouraged. Now you're feeling in despair. Now you're feeling disappointed. Now you're feeling upset. Now you're feeling sad. Now you're feeling angry. Now you're feeling ultimately conflicted because of rebound. So the whole idea here is being able to know that when you are feeling the effects of this rebound, that you center yourself. You go inside yourself because you need to look at those fragments that are talking to you, that are telling you this was out of bounds. This was basically a decision that you made hastily. And so now you need to recover from that situation by doing whatever you feel you can to accept those aspects of disappointment and utilize those forms as a pick-me-up, as moving on, as picking yourself up from the ground, dusting yourself off, and continuing. Have you learned the lesson from that particular type of choice that you've made? As long as you've learned the lesson, you can keep walking. Now the roads start to converge. Now a highway starts to come back again because you have accepted that as a learning lesson. And this is where the ego again comes together into play. The ego is actually helping you with this. The ego really does not want to see you become destroyed. It does want to help you, but again, it does not function as a guide. It wants to make sure that you are getting everything that you have asked for, but it's also keeping track about how much you may at times despise yourself or feel self-loathing or self-unworthiness. The ego keeps track of that, so it's very much again like a data collector. Well, there's a 95% chance that you will again procrastinate about yourself because this is what you always do. Again, the ego knows you very, very well. And so it's attempting to help you. Sometimes it may even feel like it's playing devil's advocate, and at times it will, because it's being able to give you a quote-unquote reality check. It's telling you, if you're going that way, please fill me in. Let's start to work together in creating a foundation here. Let's make it happen. I want to see you succeed. I want you to be happy. The ego wants you to have that. That's its job. But if you're constantly belittling itself, it'll only just mirror that particular state of belittling. Oh, you're useless, you're worthless, you're no good for nothing, you're this, that, and the other thing. Because that's all you're constantly telling yourself. So the ego will exist as that living mirror. This is why some people feel that I'm just constantly belittling myself, and I don't know why, because that's all you're feeling inside yourself, and the ego is reflecting to you with that. Is that all you're going to be, is belittling yourself, etc., etc., etc.? When you start to move into a new light and the heart is guiding you into that new light, now you can talk to the ego. Now you say, I know that at one particular point in my life, I felt down on myself. I was belittling myself. But ego, I'm no longer there anymore. I'm making a new beginning. I'm making a new start. I want to develop myself together. Can you help me, ego, in making this happen? Hey, of course. It's a new project. Let's do it. The ego is always salivating to create something new, as long as it feels like it's being included in the game, being included in the foundation. Include the ego into your work. It's not about the idea of feeling, oh, let go of the ego. The ego is nothing. You need to kill the ego. You need to destroy the ego. No. You can't. To destroy the ego is basically to destroy everything that you understand as purpose. And you have existed upon this particular plane to exist within a life of purpose. It is not meant to kill the ego, to destroy the ego, to escape from the ego, to run away, and to never look back, because that will cause you to be lost more and more and more. That is not unconditionality. If you have such animosity towards your ego, how can you possibly expect to be unconditionally loving? How can you expect to expansively love more if you have particular forms of animosity towards an aspect of yourself? That is not the key, and that is not a road to enlightenment. So it is very, very important that your ego is a best friend, is an ally, that you all very much, in many ways, cherish your heart so profoundly. And your heart is important, because that is the part to where feeling comes together. It is basically the key to your authenticity. Your heart is authenticity of feeling. Your ego is the databanks, the epicenter, to process the idea of meaning and make it into something tangible. So it's very, very important that all of you look into the idea of developing consensus with yourselves, looking into certain situations. If it's a boyfriend, if it's a girlfriend, if it's a professional career, if it's making money, if it's traveling, etc., sit down with yourself and asking yourself, what can I do to allow full consensus that I can make this decision and I can run with it? That's truly, quote unquote, your homework based upon areas that you feel you are lacking in. The points to where you feel that I'm not giving myself enough permission, enough consensus to go on vacation, to start a relationship that I feel I truly deserve, that I know will be a loving one. So whatever I feel I need to do, let myself work on that tonight. So that is the idea that, as we have talked about, yes, representing the form of your own diaries, of your journals, and being able to document everything that you are experiencing. Being able to look into the aspect of whatever the theme is and being able to create an alliance with it. The heart, again, is the authenticity factor. So look into the idea about where the heart is attempting to steer you. The heart is saying, well, this is where you belong. This is more of your career. But the ego is saying, oh, come on, that's not your career, that's not your career. It's because you haven't filled the ego in. So the heart is already telling you exactly this is where you need to go. This is your path. This is who you are authentically. But the ego is saying, no, 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 you can't do that because I haven't got the memo. What's going on here? So you need to sit down with the ego, you need to sit down with yourself, and you need to allow yourself to develop a state of understanding between the ego and yourself. Now, it may be true, you may not have a plan about where you want to go to the next level. I don't know what the plan is, ego. All I'm asking you to do right now is to have faith in me, in being able to trust me, and knowing that I'm going to make decisions appropriately as they come, as I walk this path. Sometimes that may take a little bit of convincing, but you are telling your ego, this is where I want to go. This is why I'm deciding to make the decision, because I trust my heart. And ego, I ask you please to trust me, because I will trust you. All right, let's go for it. Let's do it. There you go. As long as the ego is feeling valued, feeling appreciated, it will go with you in different areas. If you are telling the ego that you appreciate it, that you thank it very much for allowing all of this particular form of processing to come together and making your reality what it is, showing that love to the ego, it will follow you. It will make a leap of faith, and it will go down that road, and it will start to build as it continues to walk. This particular conduit, in that sense, has made a very good alliance with his ego. The idea that the ego is a positive benefactor. The ego may not always know exactly where Brad wants to go, but giving the idea that Brad fills himself in and says, this is what we're going to do. Trust me, ego. This is going to be bringing about a leap of faith. Trust me, this is going to work out. All right, let's go for it. That's it. As long as you bring the ego into that state of feeling appreciated, feeling valued, feeling loved with everything it has done, because it has a purpose, then that is what's going to create a great consensus. So we ask you all to reflect on that through this evening and through the days ahead. We thank you once again for the opportunity of this particular interaction with all of you today. We will now proceed into the question and answer period of today's class. Before moving into the text-based question and answers, we will now go into the front row, and if anyone within the front row has questions first, we will take care of their questions, and then secondly, we will move into the Q&A from the text chat. So thank you very much, everybody within the front row. Any questions for us today?
Hello, I would like to ask a question.
Hello, who are we speaking with?
This is Cheyenne. I'm from California.
Hello, Cheyenne.
I'm so excited to be talking to you today. It was my birthday yesterday, and this is such a gift for me. Thank you for being
Happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you. So my question is, something happened on the 7th in California skies that the government is trying to cover up. Can you please tell us the truth about what happened? Please.
Would you be able to elaborate on this event?
It was a comet-like object that was in the sky. It had a blue streak in the middle of it, and a lot of people saw it from Texas to California to it was huge.
Yes. So you're referring to the idea of what is referred to as the missile.
Yes, exactly. Tell them.
This was the idea of a missile that was being deactivated by what you would know as extraterrestrial sources.
Wow.
So the whole idea is that the missile itself was being launched, it was therefore being scrambled, and then the idea combusted. And through the idea in that sense of the upper atmosphere, this generated the particular idea of effect of the missile literally being dissolved. Many of you feel that it was actually in that sense a portal opening or a gateway opening to a spacecraft. No, this is not true. The whole idea, though, is that yes, it was true that a, shall we say, interplanetary conveyance or a reproduction vehicle in that sense was actually responsible for the neutralizing and dismantling and dissolving of the particular missile in question. However, it's important to know that the spacecraft in that sense that was responsible was not actually in that sense housing extraterrestrial, but actually housing your own people. So it is the idea of what you would know as another branch of your own space program that was actually taking place in dissolving that missile. And that is in that sense the fancy light show, as it were, that many of you experienced.
That is amazing. Thank you. Wow.
You're very welcome. It was not a test. So we will say that in that particular way. This particular launching of the missile did actually, in fact, have a target. It was a target very similar to what you would know within the opposite side of the world. And it was basically intercepted and brought down. Make sense?
Yes, and we are so thankful for that.
Well, thank yourselves, because it was really you that did it.
Well, yeah, that's true. I want to know these people. I want to thank them. I love them. Wow.
Yes, this would be in that sense a branch of your own space program.
Wow. Thank you so much, Adronis, for letting us know the truth about that. A lot of people were wondering what that is.
Well, again, we only share perspective, but again, if it's something that you feel matches your own resonance, we thank you as well. Thank you for your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
I had a question
Yes,
about.
Adronis. Oh,
Please feel free to share your name before stating your question. Thank you.
You go ahead first.
hello, Adronis. This is Wendy.
Hello, Wendy.
I have a question regarding now that we're in an awareness where we are able to, with intention, change the idea of the vibration of the current planet, Earth, if you will, that we choose to reside on, then with intention, once we all understand that we can change a particular event, could we then, now that we're in this 5-dimensional Earth, then change the result of anything, what we would consider in our future, as we know time, collectively, to raise the vibration enough to change a very large event?
Yes, well, the idea is that, again, your future is not written in stone, and that basically everything pertaining to the future will always be ethereal, which means that it never has the ability to manifest because all you have is now. And so the whole idea is that if enough of you collectively are looking to get together in being able to perform a certain goal, then the idea of everything that you are making presently is what matters, because there is no future. We understand exactly what you are saying. But the whole idea is that you are giving evaluation based upon what you feel are possibilities, are probabilities pertaining to what you know as the future. And being able to know that you all don't prefer those particular aspects relating to the idea of an outcome relating to reality, be it war, impoverishment, hunger, starvation, etc. That if all of you are coming together and being able to develop a mutual consensus about what you can all together do through action, through expressing, through the idea of intent, then this is something that indeed is what's shaping your world. This is indeed what has gotten you this far, is through the idea of mutual intent. So it's all being able to work together as a group in your own particular ways of whatever you feel that benefits. Each of you will offer something differently towards a common goal, and that's what makes the human race so unique. So continue to do it in that particular way, because many of you have common goals. The idea to allow a thriving civilization that works together with the earth to come together. The idea of moving to a point where the idea of food, the idea of shelter, the idea of clothing, the idea of education are all natural rights. They are not privileges. So it's very, very important to look at it in that way. You all have the opportunity to basically move past the idea of a monetary system tomorrow, if all of you give value to something else that represents an arbitrary mean of exchange. So all of you have the capability of doing that. The whole key here is that through collective consciousness agreement in the majority is the idea of the majority effective result pertaining to that manifestation, imbued with the intent uniquely through all of you. Make sense?
Yes, thank you for a beautiful answer.
Thank you for a beautiful question. Any other questions?
I had a question. Oh, I'm Samantha.
Yes.
And I had a question about relating constellations to different chakra points. I sort of had an awakening one time. I was like a couple days ago looking up at the stars, and I related it and then saw a sort of like what seemed like a shooting star, but larger. I just wanted to know if there was any correlation or connection to portals, constellations in regards to our chakra points, I guess.
What area of the body became affected by seeing that shooting star?
At the time, I was focusing on, I guess, the sacral chakra.
Yes. So that is therefore the idea of what that represents. You can actually are able to, in that sense, coordinate, shall we say, through the 7 common chakras, areas of certain stars that you are able to, shall we say, connect with and align. Because here's the idea. Stars themselves have a multitude of different chakra centers applied, not only through them, but through the idea of, shall we say, celestial gravitational bodies that may exist within their own system itself. And so the whole idea is that you are tuning to the star to determine exactly what chakra center or centers align through the idea of that particular star. For the example, in regards to this conduit, the idea of his highest 3 chakra centers resonate with the star of Sirius. So through the idea of the throat chakra, the brow chakra, and the crown chakra. This, in that sense, represents the highest degree of energy, vibration, and resonance with him based upon that particular type of star. Others may feel that they look at the 7 sisters of the Pleiades and discover that the 7 sisters all correspond with the 7 chakra centers. That too is valid should you feel it in resonance. So it's all about being able to allow your own chakras to give you the interpretation of what they are feeling as you look, as you observe at particular stars within your sky, to giving you an indication about what resonates. And that those particular stars are capable of bonding with those particular types of chakra centers in question and being able to calibrate them appropriately also.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you very much for your question. Anybody else?
Hi, Adronis. This is Alexandra.
Yes, hello.
And I am Cheyenne proposed a question.
Yes.
We wanted to know, what is the birthing process of your planet?
The birthing process of our planet. Well, firstly, we're not on a planet. We exist as starlight. We exist within the star of Sirius A. Now, the whole idea of birthing in that sense really does not, shall we say, correlate too much to the idea about what you understand the birthing process to be. The idea in that sense of a body is actually something that's reciprocated through the idea of, it could be referred to as, shall we say, a male or female, but because we are in that sense in its own highest aspect androgynous. The idea of the intention of a soul to actually come into our plane and wishing to incarnate in the idea of the manifestation of how we represent ourselves is basically instantaneous. And so there is no particular idea of, in that sense, having sexual intercourse in that particular way and allowing 9 months to progress and all of a sudden you have a newborn Syrian baby. No, it doesn't work that way for us. It is, in that sense, something that is indeed sexual in a certain way, but it is something that represents what you would know as instantaneous orgasm, that represents the idea of the birthing and blessing of another to join our collective. And that would be the appropriate analogy in that way. Think of it as a drop of water that's being added to the ocean.
Oh, that's wonderful. Is that just for, in instance, your way of birthing? Is it the same for others? Like, for instance, if it were their Pleiadians or...
No, we are not talking about Pleiadians. We're only referring to our particular civilization. Our civilization, in that sense, has reached a state of ascension. And through this particular type of state of ascension, we have gravitated more into the 6-density cluster, or the 6-density plateau of existence. And through this particular reality, attaining a body is as simple as breathing in that particular way. We have much more leniency in that particular way, representing the idea of manifestation in a degree that is not so physical anymore. The physicality works more for us rather than feeling that we work for it. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, hi, Adronis, this is Wendy again. Then with respect to then instant manifestation, then we then would be able to, once we're able to vibrate at that point, we can actually do that now.
Yes, in a way you're understanding that you are masters of reality. Now, excuse us, the idea is that manifestation instantaneously in that sense is more so aligned to opportunity in your physical reality. The idea for opportunities to therefore show itself. However, through the idea of, in that sense, intense mental training, intense mental practice, intense spiritual connection, many of you are basically, in that sense, vibrating on a particular level that actually, in that sense, creates certain phase arrangements. between the idea of governing physical bodies, which means that the idea that you are actually shifting yourself in a ray between the idea of a physical and a transient body can actually allow the idea of the manipulation of matter through the idea of the commanding of the atomic structure of your reality. So you will notice that there have been stories in your ancient past about ancient masters who have acquired what is known as the rainbow body. Does this sound familiar?
Yes.
The rainbow body in that sense is what you would know as the transient manifestation between those two particular types of bodies, that they are phasing in between reality and that they are becoming much more luminescent. The reason they are becoming luminescent is because their own atomic structure is moving at such an acceleration that physical reality will simply see it as an embodiment of light. So the idea of what you would know as your sun in that sense is not just the idea of a ball of fire, that fire itself is just operating at a very, very heightened frequency with more of an intense, shall we say, atomic structure in a state of acceleration. That is primarily all that's happening with your body, is that your body is now starting to become light, and you are transitioning between the physical and the transient stages. And through that particular aspect, you can move to a point to where another reality is truly your home localized domain, other than what you would understand physical reality to be. So it is the transitioning between one reality and another. However, in order to do this, basically takes a great deal of mental training, a great deal of spiritual connection, of seeing yourself in oneness, in order for this to be accomplished. There are many who in that sense have spent entire lifetimes attempting to achieve rainbow body, because it has been demonstrated by them through other incognito extraterrestrials that have been positioned throughout your centuries, mostly within the Eastern worlds, such as the areas of Tibet, such as the areas of China, such as the idea of India, where they have actually been positioned to demonstrate the effect of this rainbow body by focusing on a single point. This can often represent the idea of a sound. This can often represent the idea of a symbol. This can often represent the idea of a single thought. But this is basically what is creating the idea of a transient effect between one physical body and a transient body, phasing in between, so that the physical body eventually leaves this plane and functioning within another reality that is unfathomable in regards to what you would know as physical perception. Make
Thank
sense?
you. Yes, very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will now move forward into the text chat Q&A application. Alexandra, feel free to proceed when you are ready.
I don't see any particular questions there, but there is another question that popped up by Cheyenne. And the question is, can you give us tips on how to connect with beings that want to come through or channel through with us? In this case, we were discussing about this aligning this body. Maybe I think that would be helpful if you can give us any tips.
Cheyenne, are you able to speak to us through microphone?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Would you like to share that question personally with us once again?
Yeah. Yes, of course. I wanted to know how I can communicate with a being that wants to channel through me.
All right. Well, again, is there a particular being that you felt is very, very strong, is connecting together through you?
Well, I first encountered Bashar, which is a being from the Essassani civilization. I feel very connected to them. I also feel very connected to Sirius energy.
All right.
I love water.
Now, again, understand that as this is a private, personal question, more so, it is more so best left to a session. But we can generally give you the idea of a premise. The reason why we're asking if you feel that there is a connection to you is because this is what everybody else can attempt to try as well, is being able to give an understanding if there is a connection that you personally feel in resonance with, if it's Bashar, if it's Adronis, if it's Rayar, if it's Treb, if it's Aishawa, if it's Aradif, whoever it may be. You all have the opportunity to connect with their domain because you hold some type of rapport relationship resonance with their frequency. So this requires meditation time. This requires making time for yourself, keeping yourself as open as you possibly can imagine, trusting yourself as the flow comes through. So maybe that's having a journal next to you. Maybe that's having a piece of paper and being able to write out your questions and being able to instantaneously receive a response through the idea of thought flow, through the idea of vision, through the idea of clairaudience, however it decides to come through to you. So being able to interpret that information as you see fit. But a lot of this simply represents the idea of becoming more familiar with relationship to particular types of energies. We understand that Bashar himself is actually quite open to communicating with many others. This conduit himself has communicated with Bashar in certain forms of telepathic elements. Us ourselves are quite open in being able to communicate with you. We are in that sense very open and have communicated with many different beings all across planet Earth. Again, there are certain beings that have this. So if you feel that you are in resonance, create something that is your link up, that represents a symbol that connects yourself in regards to this domain, this new reality that you're creating, through the idea of interfacing between yourself, the mediumship of that particular type of symbol, of that permission slip, and the other particular entity on the other end, as it were. And just let yourself relax. Move yourself into that alignment. Calibrate yourself as you feel it necessary. You may notice that you may start to get jolts in the body. This is basically the body arranging itself like an antenna. Think of it in the idea of straightening an antenna in that particular way that was once crooked. This is again an example of that. You may notice that the throat in that sense may feel a little bit quote-unquote funky. And if that happens, that's just giving the idea of being able to clear your throat, to noticing that there in that sense has been, shall we say, certain degrees of expressions that may not have been fully expressed to that particular way. So working together and clearing the throat, doing a healing meditation in that sense, through the idea of the healing of the throat, so that the throat can communicate more prosperously. But again, that's really all it entails. Give yourself time to commit to connect. All right?
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We will now return to the conduit for a brief moment. Thank you. One moment, please. All right, thank you, guys. I'm just going to check something real quick, so I make sure that maybe it's just a Q&A app on my side that only gets questions. So let me see here.
One just popped up.
Okay, one just popped up. Okay, great. So you're already getting it. So yeah. I just want to just give that announcement out to everybody right now that is tuning into this broadcast. Again, you'll just see the Q&A app button there. Just press that, and you should see a little interface coming up, and you'll be able to type in your question. So Alexandra, as you have that question, if you want to go ahead and share it.
Okay. Mary Rose once asked, why were the events in Paris referred to as a fall flag event?
Okay, let me go ahead and bring Adronis in, and he can elaborate on that a little bit. So I can adjust my share here, but okay, one moment. We thank you once again, Mary, for the opportunity for your question today. In regards to your question, the idea is that why is it that Paris is being referred to as a false flag event? Because it is. And that's basically the best way we can put it. Here's the thing. Relating to many of what you would refer to as your upcoming events that may signify tragedy. Basically what's happening is that many of them will be doctored. Many of them will be orchestrated. No more different than what you would know as your theatrical plays. And that's basically what's happening here. So the idea in regards to what you have referred to as your Sandy Hook, as your Boston bombing in that particular way, and of course what has happened with Paris in that particular way, have all been fabrications. The reason being is because much of the particular type of quote-unquote power elite, if you refer to them in that way, has reached such a point of decline in regards to what they're capable of actually showcasing on a collective level. Here's the thing. Many of their toys have been deactivated. Many of their underground installations have been deactivated. So because they are losing a great deal of resources that they once had available, they are now working together to develop mixed means of, in that sense, attempting to stage these events. And also because that there, shall we say, certain forms of energetic alignments of what they are actually able to capably do denies them any particular type of involvement of what you would refer to as mass massacre. This is no longer permissible. So the whole idea is that they have reduced themselves to the point where they must orchestrate the idea of a massacre without actually committing a massacre. That's the whole idea. The reason being is because your Earth is operating on such a higher frequency right now that the idea of these particular types of ploys to instill governmental direction, political direction, is being denied. And so what they are attempting to do is create these particular types of facades and ploys to actually help steer them into political change. That's the only reason why these events happen, to basically give the idea of their own edge, but they have no more edges. And this is basically what will, quote unquote, backfire upon them. They are basically getting rebound from these particular types of events. Now, this is of no surprise. They have in the past attempted to sink your state of California through the idea of massive earthquakes. This have been denied. They were, in that sense, fully responsible for attempting to create the hurricane that was about to come upon Mexico, and basically moving it into such a deduction that it was not as harmful as it was meant to be. This had been denied. What they're attempting to do with Paris, in that sense, relating to the, shall we say, false group that has been created known as ISIS, to basically create some type of fear to create a political movement in their favor. This has been denied. So this is basically what they're attempting to do. They are going through a very immense checklist from A to Z to try and check out all of these particular types of agendas that they can try to do. And they are getting more denied, and more denied. However, spectacles of this nature are happening because, as we just talked about previously, relating to unification upon your planet. That's exactly what's happening. Now, Adronis, in that sense, is it true that people were actually massacred in Paris? No, they were not. Everything that you will discover through the idea of this particular type of event was nothing more than a fabrication, stage play. You will discover that the particular victims, quote unquote, will actually have many different fallacies in between them, and that there was actually no massacre other than the idea of a stage ploy to make it feel like there was one. Now again, that is simply our perspective. This is what we have shared with the conduit, and that is what the conduit has been sharing through his own social media, and this is precisely what has been taking place. However, your own perspectives are as valid as another. Thank you very much, Mary, for your question. Okay, do we have another question?
No, I don't see any other.
Okay, well, great. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for a really great class today. I really appreciate all of the questions, all of the interaction from all of you today. So we will be back in 2 weeks' time, which is, I believe, November 28th, 29th, something like that. I have to check the dates. But we'll be back in the second Sunday after this for another particular classroom. So thank you, everybody, for joining me on the call today, on the broadcast. Wonderful questions that have come around, and I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Thank you so much. Namaste, and feel free to check out realitywhisperer.com if you guys are interested in sessions, courses, a lot of free videos, etc. So that's realitywhisperer.com. Thank you again. Have a great day. Namaste.
Thank you.